All right, we're recording. It's 7 o'clock, 7:01. Let's roll.
Okay. Well, first of all, and I was doing some chit chat with some others have joined since then, but we were chit-chatting to begin with, and I told them, I said, 99.9% of them, you have completed boot camp. You got through the APSLs very successfully. If you're in that 0.1% and you still owe me something, you've gotten the emails today. You need to take care of business and get that taken care of immediately. Our purpose tonight is, Dr. Lamb and I have talked earlier today, we're going to go back and forth on, lessons learned as a result of the APSL. Dr. Lamb may have some other things that he wants to talk about as it relates to his role as a clinical coach. And then we're going to review the APTEL. So that's our plan for this evening. Dr. Lamb, from the task stream perspective, I'll let you start if you would like, and just talk about some of the things that you've observed that we don't want to make those mistakes again this semester.
All right, so start with task stream. All right.
Okay.
Look at there. I was prepared. All right, so task stream. You know that this is your DRF portfolio. When you sign into task stream, you can either come here or you can go to folios and web pages and go to your competency folio. So I'm going to focus just a minute on the DRF portfolio before I move over to the competency folio. None of the things that I'm talking about are new. I'm just reiterating some things. Now, as you can see on the screen, I've got a student version of the Spring 17 add-on licensure DRF. It's the same for Spring 18. I use this one because it's my sandbox. I can play in this one. So, as you can see, the things that are due this semester in task stream in your DRF portfolio are the APSL, APTEL, competency analysis, and School of Ed dispositions. If you have not done School of Ed dispositions, you can do them now. They require no narrative. They require no evidence, no proof, no artifacts. You just do a self-assessment of where you are. If you've not done School of Ed disposition, you click on that and do it now. Make sure you get your dispositions done.
And most have not done that, Dr. Lamb. I looked at that the weekend, and most of the students have not done that.
I know they need to, because I'm the one that does the other half. And I base the other half on how well you're doing so far in your evidence artifact work. So make sure that you go ahead and do your School of Ed dispositions soon. It's six circles you put a radio dot in. Can't be any easier than that. Competency analysis, you do that at the end of the semester, where you go back to APSL task 5 and APTEL task 4, and you copy and paste your analysis of how you met the 21 competencies this semester, and they're split 13 in APSL task 5 and 9 in APTEL task 4. You copy and paste those and submit that at the end of the semester. So we won't worry about that right now. Now, you should have already uploaded your APSL. For me, as your clinical coach, I do not need to see the screenshot of your completed and graded APSL. I see that already. There is a Dropbox, however, in Dr. Stedman's or in your course shell. There is a Dropbox for that screenshot of that page. Now, in order to get your score, you simply click from the work screen where we are now, right here in the center, over to the scores results page, and your APSL will have a score. It will say 4 out of 4 or 3 out of 4 or 4.0. It will have your score right here. You simply take a screenshot of this page and you put it in that Dropbox in your class shell. Now, taking a screenshot. If you are on Windows 10, Windows 8.1, or Windows XP, you simply, at the same time, press the Windows button on your keyboard. It's down next to the space bar, along with the print screen button, and it will take a picture of the screen. That's called a screenshot, a PNG. You will find that picture in your, go to File Manager. That's that file down here at the bottom. You open that up, you go to Pictures, and it will be there, just like that. Now, if you are in an older version, like Windows 7, it doesn't work that easily. Let me see what this question is. Are any comments required for the School of Ed dispositions? No, no narrative. Just click the buttons. That's all you have to do. Good question. All right, back to, if you're using an older version of Windows, you will need to use what is known as the snipping tool. And you will have to load the snipping tool out of your programs. So when you click on the big Windows button down at the corner, I've got an older version that I'm using here. I've already got the snipping tool loaded. You will have to go to Control Panel, Programs to find your snipping tool. You click on Snipping Tool. It gives you a pop-up box. And then you probably can't see that, but it gives you the opportunity to do a full screen snip. There it is. You can then File, Save As, and name it. And then you're done. That one is now in the same place in your pictures file in your file manager. So if you're using an older version of Windows, you got a couple more, you got to do a little more to get your screenshot. But if you're using a newer version, it's simply the Windows button and print screen, and it'll look just like a camera taking a picture.
And Dr. Lamb, I've gotten screenshots from everybody except for 5 students.
Good. So hopefully, if you're not aware of how to do a screenshot or where it is, you'll now know. Go to your DRF portfolio, go to your scores results page, use the Windows button and print screen. If it doesn't click like a camera, you'll have to go to your control panel. To all your programs, you'll have to download the snipping tool. Use the snipping tool to take a full screen snip of your screen and then upload it that way. So we still have a few of those that are out. Now, the other thing, that should, you will, let me go back. Question. All right, thank you, James. For the Mac, you can press Shift-Command-4 for a screenshot. Thank you. I was going to ask if somebody knew how to do it on a Mac. So those of you who are using a Mac, James says you can press Shift-Command-4 for a screenshot. Very good. All right. Now, back to the work page. As you can see, you'll have to do the AppTel the same way later this semester when you upload it and get it graded. I don't think any of you had to wait more than 48 hours for grading. Some of you have been faster than that. Anytime there's been a problem with grading, I've been able to get through to the graders pretty quickly and get any issues resolved on grading. So I think everybody is, I noticed that there's one that's going to be needed to be graded in the next 12 hours to make the 48-hour deadline, but I think that'll happen. They usually grade at night. And so if it doesn't, I follow up with those and send emails, this needs to be graded.
Dr. Lamb, while we're talking about graders, the conversation you and I had earlier today about different graders, different students, different graders, and we talked about administration and superintendents, different superintendents evaluating. Let's talk about that so that they'll understand where we're coming from with our graders, our evaluators.
We have a number of graders that are evaluators that work on our work. I think there are 6 of them, and there's differences among them. Some folks complain that, my friend did, my work was as good as theirs and they got a higher score. one of the things that this teaches you, and is actually a good thing, is to learn what your grader is looking for. You'll have the same grader all the way through. This is an opportunity for you to learn what exactly they're looking for, what made them happy, what didn't make them happy. And it gives you the opportunity, and it's going to be the same way when you get in your job. One principal grades different than another. One superintendent or area superintendent grades differently than another. I worked for a principal early on in my career, and he never gave the highest marks. He only gave the highest that he would give was whatever was average, proficient, whatever the middle score was. Now, that he was an idiot's immaterial. That's life. You just had to understand that somebody else would give a much higher score for the same work. But what you did is you learned to try to figure out what made him happy. And then sometimes, even somebody like him could be persuaded to give a higher score, but you had to learn his rhythm and what he was really looking for. Same way with your graders. Some graders get all bent out of shape if there's a grammatical error or syntax isn't right. Some don't care about anything but content. Some want to see it all laid out a certain way. Some graders won't give the top score if you didn't have the directions. So otherwise, they have to go back and open up the handbook and look at the rubric. Those kinds of things, and that's why I've told you, you'll get better scores if you develop a pattern, if you develop a template of how you're going to do things. Since we developed those for you, you'll have one again next semester for the OMA. You will not have one beyond that, but you'll need to kind of develop your own in terms of how your evaluator evaluates you. And that's part of the learning process is, by the time you get to the skip, I want you developing your own rubric that kind of fits the pattern that you've seen from your grader. That's a good skill to have, good thing to learn going forward, as you have different people evaluate you in your professional life. That would be that's actually a good thing. Makes you adapt and pay attention and learn. You're going to be evaluated the exact same way that we're doing this now when you get your job. Let me show you what I'm talking about here.
And South Carolina has very similar.
Very, very similar. Very similar. So if you look at how you are evaluated, in South Carolina is very similar. Evidence, documents that demonstrate or confirm the work of the person being evaluated and support the rating on an element. Artifact, a product resulting in the work. They are natural byproducts of the work and are not created for the purpose of satisfying an evaluation requirement. That means there's not something that you made up or you wrote. Just like when you're putting your competencies in your competency folio, and that's where I'm going next, it's not something that you wrote up to tell us about your that's competency analysis. When you write it up, what goes in your competency folio is an artifact, a thing that was produced from the work that you did. That's the way you're going to be evaluated, by your evidence, your write-up, and your and your artifacts, the things that you produce. And so if we keep going on down, if we see how you are rated, if we look at the rubric, the standards are the same. The 7 standards, and here they are. And it tells us what should be the practices, and it tells us what artifacts will be produced by doing the work. As you can see here, your evidence should contain, write-up should contain these practices, and then the artifacts that you would have been created by that natural byproduct, and we have them for each of the standards, and then we actually have them in a grading rubric here. But again, they define, there's your competencies, and there's your 21st century framework. And then, as we keep going down, here's your, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Developing, proficient, accomplished, distinguished is the terminology that they use there. But here are the things that should be in your evidence narrative, and it tells you at each level what should be in there, just like we tell you what should be in the task of your evidences. And then at the end, it tells you what artifacts that they're looking for. So that's how you're going to be evaluated. You can't write an artifact. An artifact is a thing. It's an icon. It's something that is created by the work that you do. So when we start looking at our competency folio in TaskStream, that's pictures, that's screenshots, that's agendas, that's minutes, that's pamphlets, that's email announcements of event. It's things that go in there. Competency analysis is what you did along the way. That's so you'll reflect and know, oh, that's what a competency is. But a competency folio is a proof of the things that you did.
And Dr. Lamb, they need to understand too, it's not about just stuff. It needs to be quality stuff.
Yeah. It's got to be a byproduct of the good work that you do. It's not just stuff that you gathered up that's laying around. So when we go to folios and web pages again, this is where we put things for communication. I would expect to see something like a screenshot of an agenda that you did for a PLC meeting, a screenshot of an email giving you permission, or a screenshot of an email that you did to your committee members. That's kind of the opener. I want to see more advanced when we get to 605, but this time, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those things. You don't have to write up anything. You're writing your competency analysis in task 5 of your AppSell and task 4 of your AppTel. I'm not looking for a written narrative here. I'm looking for something that you produced from the work that you did, because you're going to have to get in the habit of that to satisfy your evaluator once you get your job. And remember, different evaluators score you differently. Some give higher scores than others. Some have certain things that they want to see. That's part of the learning process, that you've got to learn. What's my evaluator looking for? Well, it's not fair. I got a harder evaluator than somebody else. Well, suck it up, Buttercup. Life's not fair. Adults, fair is where you go in the fall of the year and ride the Ferris wheel and eat a corn dog. There is no fair. That's a middle school concept, early adolescence. You got to get over that fair and unfair business. It'll make you a better person to have a harder evaluator.
Dr. Lamb, look at those questions that just came through.
If you do a screenshot, will the file be too big to go through? No, not screenshots. Screenshots are not like JPEGs, pictures. Pictures are what gets you, because the pixels. If it's a JPEG, you got to be careful about using too many of those. A PNG file, a screenshot, no problem.
Those that did a lot of JPEGs,
or can they be different? They can be different, Kimberly.
Yeah. But Dr. Lamb, the ones that did a lot of JPEGs, sometimes I would have to go and do something else and come back, sometimes 30 minutes later, waiting for it to open up because it was so. You got to
not take so many pictures with your phone for your Now you can put as many as you want in your competency folio. Let me say that again. You can put as many pictures as you want in your competency folio. You just can't stick them in your evidences. Remember, those have to go to a grading rubric. And if you have more than, if you're more than 15 megabytes, it won't open the grading rubric and the pictures at the same time. The competency folio, you can put as many pictures as you want in there, because that does not go to a grading rubric, and those are only opened one at a time. You understand? When you open a document that has multiple pictures in it, they all have to be opened at the same time. That doesn't work that way. That's why we set the competency folio up separate from the DRF portfolio, so that you can put as many pictures as you want in it.
And Dr. Lamb, when they're, like, for instance, when you complete task 1 of the AppTel, when you do your appendices, it's okay at that point for me to see things, but when you put that final document together, at the very end, when you do an appendices, you've got to go back and pick and choose the best of the best of what you have out of each one. Not everything, but the best of what you have.
All right, so here's a good one. The more pruning the evaluator does on you, the more you will blossom in the end. That's a good one. Thank you. I think Sharon shared that with us. That's a good thing. The harder that they are on you, the better the more you pay attention to what they really want. And that's a good thing, and it makes you get better. I think the scores have been abnormally high so far. Now, I don't know if that's because Dr. Stedman's such a good teacher, if the evaluators are easy, or y'all are just smart. I have not decided, but I think the scores have been a little abnormally high so far. I'm hoping.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit partial, and I'm going to go with what you said to begin with.
Dr. Stedman's a good teacher.
No, I'm picking.
So that's it.
Them hard.
Yeah, I've been very pleased with the scores. The scores,
yes, I have too.
As high as I've ever seen. I've been really pleased with those. Great instructor. No, that's not true. That instructor, him. I'm just
both. It's a team effort, Dr. Lamb.
Yeah, team effort. All right. So remember, your competency folio, you can put as many of whatever you want in here. You just can't put it in your pictures in your evidences. That's a different story, as Dr. Stedman just pointed out. We don't mind seeing them along the way when you're doing your individual tasks, but you have to make some command decisions at the end to make sure it's not more than 15 megabytes at the end. That's the limit, and that's not something that I can change. Can you show me one more time how to get to the competency folio? Oh, absolutely. So when you log into TaskStream, and this is the screen that pops up first. Now, yours won't have all these DRFs on it. Yours will only have this one. Now, you can go to your DRF portfolio for evidence, artifacts, dispositions, and competency analysis here, or you can come to folios and web pages up here, and you'll just have one. Again, I have multiples. Here's the one from Spring 18 that we created, and there it is. Now, if you have not created your competency folio, you'll need to go back and create your competency folio. I've actually got a video for you to do that. I believe it's in our class shell. I know it's in my intern shell. There's a Zoom video of how to create this competency folio. I did it in class one night as well.
It's in their class shells too.
Yeah, it's in your class shell. It's a 4-minute video that I made on how to create your competency folio if you've not done it. If you have done it, you simply click on folios and web pages. But it won't be there automatically. You have to create it, and you can customize it. And so you can see I made mine for Spring 18. It's fairly easy. It's a 4-minute video. It's in the class shell if you have not created your competency folio. We've not grounded too hard on that yet, but it wouldn't be a bad time to start uploading your first round of competency proofs of your artifacts. You can do that anytime. All right, thanks. She remembers now. Great. Y'all are easy to work with. All right, so that's how that works. All right, so that's TaskStream. Anybody have any questions on TaskStream?
Okay, Pam just asked.
Literally copy and paste from the app cell. Oh, yes. Yes, and that's competency analysis. So if you're doing competency analysis, good question. Let me go back here and go to my DRF. So, all right, so if I click on competency analysis, and click on View Edit My Responses. And so for change, I'm going to mark myself as met. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, let's see if I've got a, so what I would do is I would go to my app cell. And I would go to, which one was I on? Change management. I'd go to change management. Copy. And there it is. Mark met, and that one's done. That's how you do competency analysis. And you'll have all 21 by the time we get through with the evidence, with the AppSell and AppTell. You just simply do a copy and paste. Now, I'm going to throw you a curve now. Once you get past technology, that's your 21. We've got a couple of other things here as well. Knowledge of curriculum and knowledge of assessment. What we want you to do is write a brief reflection of what you've learned about those things while having done all these competencies. You write a brief summary there. There is no copy and paste for them, but we're asking you by the end of the MELS program or the end of the course must show that are met. By the end of 601, only the first level is required. And you will tell how you met these things, these 4 things here. You simply write us a quick narrative on these 2 right here. It says at the end of by 601, these are the things that you should only have to have done level 1, but you can tell us if you achieve more than all the way up through level 4. It's kind of a self-assessment of how well you've done on your competencies so far. So you can copy and paste the 21, and then you kind of self-assess the 2 at the bottom, and you submit that, and you save and return and submit, and that would be your competency analysis. You don't have to do that until you can work on it at any time and save it, but it's not due until after you finish the AppTell at the end of the semester. Again,
Dr. Ram, there were a couple of more questions that just came up.
Do all the ones that say digital, should this evidence? No, it doesn't have to be a video.
And Pam had one.
Okay, for that example, show us how to add evidence, as I just did. How to add an artifact in the competency folio. Is that what we're talking about? It's not an evidence.
I think that's what Pam was asking.
Evidences go here. Evidences are the written narrative. They go here. Artifacts are the things. They go in the competency folio. Let me go back to the questions here. Okay.
So Pam, that area that he was talking about, you only do a narrative there. That's all you do there.
Competency analysis is a narrative. That's what analysis is, a narrative. Competency folio is things. So let me go back to the folio. All right, so if it says digital, just follow the directions. Let's see, if we read communication, one of the 3 must satisfy the following. All the digital learning competencies are different. Promote and model positive digital citizenship as well as, I don't know how to make that get over where I can read it all. There it is. As well as the practical policies for communication and collaboration with stakeholders to ensure responsible, effective digital teaching and learning practice through school process. Okay. Probably what I would do that one is I would put a link to a I put a link to maybe a video that you've done. Digital citizenship. Probably I would put a link there to a peer review session. That would be a good communication digital competency. But when it says digital, that doesn't automatically mean that you have to make something in a video format. You have to follow the directions. This one, I think, a good communication competency in digital format is a link to a peer review. I think that would be perfect there. So let's see this one.
Where's another competency, Dr. Lamb, that would involve digital I think that question was asked, other than communication.
Okay. One of these three must satisfy the following digital learning competency. Model responsible use of technology, included but not limited communication, social and ethical, legal, global issues. This one, to me, would be something like a Connect Ed message, where you inform parents of something that was going on in the building. You know, there was a big complaint when I was at home over the weekend at the lake. We get the Charlotte TV there at Lake Norman, and the big complaint is there was an incident that happened at the bus stop, and the complaint was an ethical complaint about the school that they hadn't put out a Connect Ed message to parents warning them about what had happened. I don't know if it was at Chantilly or Mary Oaks, because it was on Commonwealth Avenue, so I don't, they both serve that community, so I don't know which school it was. But one of the schools, and what their complaint is that they hadn't modeled ethical and responsible digital citizenship, that they hadn't sent them a Connect Ed message. Parents know that you got it. Why didn't you tell us? So that would be a perfect example of a Connect Ed message that you did, or that you put out some information to parents, informing them of something, an email or a Connect Ed message, or whatever you got. Doesn't have to be a video, but that'd be a perfect example there. Now,
and if you present at any time at a PTA or a PTO, and you're presenting at a parent meeting or whatever, you've got the evidence there. If you do a PowerPoint presentation, any of that will work.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us examples of other artifacts that would be considered digital? Anything, video, social media, Snapchat, Google Docs.
Kalender just said newsletters. That's a good one.
I got doodled and moogled today. Those meeting scheduling deals. I got a Google Doc. So I got. And I got Moodle today too. Moodle is one, and isn't there one named Doodle? I got Doodled and Moogled today. Newsletters, yep. If you're good with Google in the classroom, you can implement a parent announcement for your. Yes, you can. That's why I said you can do it from Google. School webpage,
yes.
Anything that's in a digital format. Doesn't have to be a video. It can be anything on social media, Facebook. Good question from Carrie about do we do the minimum amount or can we do more? I would do more, and I'll tell you why. I didn't want to. I might have already told you this. If you'll notice, there's a button over here that says Publish Share. Now that does not submit it for evaluation. What that means is you can publish this thing and use it as a portfolio when you're job hunting. And people like pictures and things like that more than writing up what you did. This is a quick and easy way to create an interview portfolio. So you can publish and share this thing. So the more stuff you've got, the better off you are. So 3 is just the minimum for the state. You can do more. Do we need to specify AppSell, AppTel, or that will be evident? Well, I'm hoping it'll be evident. If I'm not smart, I'm the one that grades this. If I'm not smart enough to figure it out, that's on me. Hey.
Those are good questions, though.
That is a good question. That's an excellent question. No, your evaluation, you'll be able to figure that one out. But that's a great question. All right, let me again cover uploading your different media here. Please remember, you can upload as many pictures, as many video. You can upload whatever you want here. There is no limit. The only stipulation is you've got to use the right button when you upload here. Okay? Here are all your different choices. And you've got to match the button with the media that you're trying to upload. That's where we get in trouble. Text and image is PDF files and PNGs like screenshots. PDFs and PNGs here. Slideshows, Prezi, PowerPoint, and I think there's a couple in Google that you can use as well. There's some other things out there in social media that create slideshows of some sort. You have to use that. Attachments is for Word documents, and you can also upload Excel spreadsheets there. Videos got to be MP4 in format. Links, obviously, to YouTube, or you can link to Google Docs there as well. Let me say that if you're doing Google Docs, you have to do the link to Google Docs here. These on the bottom here, embedded media, that's like when you have a zip file. I wouldn't do zip files, though. I've not had a lot of success. If the person, I don't have a problem with that, but not everybody has that computer capability. It doesn't work well on this old computer that I've got here in my office, but when I'm at home, I've got one at home that I have no problem with embedded media. I do on this one. So I would try to stay away from zip files and embedded media. You understand embedded means it's in another file. And so I've had people try to download their Google Docs into that as well. Nah, it's not the best. It's better to do a link to your Google Doc. Make sure if it's got a password that you include the password. You can type that in. Make sure you include your password if you got a password into your Google Docs. But make sure you use the appropriate, if you use the appropriate button, there is no limit to what you can upload here. You simply click on attachments, for example, upload from computer, add files. I'm uploading a Excel file. And there it is. Again, attachments are Word and Excel files. Now, if I wanted to do a picture, I would go to text and image. Add an image to your text section. I would browse, go to my pictures. I'll do a sample picture here. Let's see what I've got. Penguins. That's me and Dr. Stedman and Dr. Hamilton. I'm obviously the big one on the right. But it's just that easy, folks, and it'll allow you to put whatever you want in there. Whatever you want. So your competency folio, you can stick things in there anytime you want to. You get 15, 20 minutes and you've got some stuff on your computer, you just go in and just start putting it in. Don't have to write an explanation or any of that. If we can't figure it out, that's on us. But again, you're writing your explanation and competency analysis over your DRF portfolio. This is just a place to put all your stuff. And it makes it real easy that way. I love penguins.
Okay.
All right, so that's task stream. That kind of catches us up on that. I've got two more things quickly that I've got to cover.
Okay.
I love penguins. Somebody said, say what you just said again. Okay, I said I love penguins. All right, somebody wrote that to me. All right, so let me get out of here and go over to Blackboard.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
this is my intern shell, and it works the same for Dr. Hamilton.
Yeah.
Once I think everybody's just about got their app cell done. If you hadn't, this is the last thing that you have to do in your internship shell, not your class shell. In your internship shell, you go to app cell evaluation Dropbox, and when you open it up, you're on this page. Go to this box right here that says app cell final evidence narrative. You open that and upload it there. Now, you don't get the report. No, that is not turned on. We get that, we look at it, we make a decision if we need to have you go back and work on it or not. If not, we will tell you 100 submit for evaluation. Now you say, well, I don't know where that is. Again, in the same shell, you go to My Grades. Now, mine is disabled because I'm not a student, but when you click on that, it will have everything. It'll have it in a column, everything that can be graded in this shell, and it'll have a grade next to it. And it'll have the comment, submit for evaluation and task stream. Now, if you don't have My Grades over here on your menu, it's real simple. You simply click on this little button right here and go to Tool Link. And when Tool Link pops up, you go to My Grades. You name it My Grades, and it will pop up right there on this, just like mine does. It'll pop up right here. Now, if you say, well, I don't know how to do that, you can go to Tools anytime, open it up, and go to My Grades. If you don't want to put it on your menu, you just go to Tools and then click on My Grades. But you will get the results. You won't get a analysis results. We don't have that. We didn't pay for that function. All we've paid is for the instructor to see it and analyze what you need to fix if it's too high. I mean, I have one. I've only had two that were too high this semester, and both of them, as soon as they cited one reference, they were fine. So I sent them the email, and that was the end of that. What I worry about even if we were to pay for you to get the analysis, you go in and start monkeying with your paper. Paper will determine what needs to be fixed. Remember, there's no penalty on this. This is for us to get it right before it goes to state evaluation. And so just look under My Grades next day, and it'll be there. We grade these every day. I check every night to make sure all of them are graded in all the intern shells. So
can you go to your 608 class and look at the Blackboard page so I can show them something there?
Sure.
Okay. Your 08 section, rather. Kelly asked the question, how many grades should you have in the internship grade shell?
Only one required. Other than that, you can have as many as you want. Remember, your internship shell is the only thing that's required in there is that you do the turn it in check when you finish all of your evidence artifacts. Other than that, we have all these things in Dr. Stedman's class shell. Mostly what you'll do in my intern shell is use the for clinical coach review, the boxes in there for me to give you feedback on your work. But I'm not really grading you in that shell other than that turn it in. I don't want to wear you out. I mean, that's for if you're struggling, I'll give you help, and then I'll grade it and give you what I think you'll make on it. And if you're not happy with that grade, then you need to keep on working. When you get up to 75 and you're satisfied with that, then so we offer that function on everything that goes in, but that doesn't mean you have to use it. You're getting a lot of good feedback from Dr. Stedman in your class. that seems to be working. Don't add any extra work to yourself. Now, if you're struggling or if you're submitting work that's not going well, then that's what that shell is for extra support from us to help you more than would be expected in your class. That's kind of like, so that you can keep up with everybody else. We'll work with you additionally on the side so that you can stay up with your class, and nobody knows how much you help or how little or how lot of help you're getting. But that is so that you don't get behind. But we don't want to make your clinical internship shell get you behind because you're so busy filling it with the same stuff you put in your class shell. It's there when you need it.
And Dr. Lamb, if I feel like they're struggling with me and I'm not getting across to them, I may tell them, you need to submit this and get some advice from Dr. Lamb or Dr. Hamilton as well. Whoever you belong to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
how long does it take? It shouldn't take but 24 hours. Let me. I'll look at that person that sent me that one. I'll look at that one.
And then
I didn't see any. I didn't see anything.
And it states, and I've always told mine, I'm not your intern, Dr. Lamb or Dr. Hamilton's your intern this semester, but I always tell my people, if for some reason you haven't heard from me, they know, the ones that I'm interning, they know to communicate with me other ways. I check it every day several times, and Dr. Lamb does too.
Yeah. Now, understanding that we'll switch roles next semester, I'll have you in class, and he'll be your internship supervisor next semester.
So you're stuck with us both again.
Yeah, that's the way this will work, and then we'll probably give you somebody else the next semester. Y'all will be tired of us by then. We'll probably pass you off to somebody else.
But what I want you to tell her,
the question that we got here about clinical hours.
Okay.
Just keeping our own record now. That's all you ever do is keep your own record. 80 per semester. That's correct.
That's a minimum, Pam.
You have your internship log where you keep those in. The question is, we don't turn it in. Yeah, you have to turn it in. And let me go over that with you. At the end of every semester until the last semester, you turn it in your competency folio. It is an artifact. It in itself is an artifact. And so it goes in your competency folio. So if we go back to task stream, if you'll look down here at the bottom, it says internship logs. You upload them, the signed copy. So your principal is the one, by state law, your principal is the one that signs off on your clinical experience at their school. Let me say that again. By state law, the person there that's supervising you, that's why we came out and visited and made sure and shook their hand and made sure somebody there had signed on to be your clinical supervisor. And we have a signature from Gardner-Webb. They are the person who signs off that you did the hours, the clinical experience. That person at your building. We're not there every day. And so that signed log at the end of the semester and then at the end of the program, all the logs together signed, they come here at the end of every semester. We look at them and say, yep, that looks good. Or we say, you got too much supervision and not enough leadership, or you don't have any technology on there. We look at them at the end of every semester. And then at the end of the final semester in 605, you upload them in your DRF portfolio and we grade them. So don't make the mistake where it says right here, internship log in your DRF. That's only when all of them are complete and signed do you put them there, and then we grade them pass fail. The comments come in your competency folio because they, again, are artifacts. They're things that are generated from the work that you've done. There's no narrative explanation on them. It's just, I did this activity, I spent this much time.
Dr. Lamb, look at Pam and Nathaniel's questions. It deals with the internship.
Can you give us examples of anything that makes sense to you will probably make sense to me. I've given you the suggested list of activity. If there's something else that's a leadership activity, a supervision activity, or a technology activity that falls in those three categories, it's probably going to be fine. Now, I've given you a list of the things that the state requires us to have you do.
Remember, Dr. Lamb used the example. He shouldn't see where you've done 30 of your 80 hours is you've done bus duty.
Yeah. I don't want to see 60 of your 80 bus duty. No. All right. I don't. The principals, there is a place on there for principal signature. You can just have them sign at the bottom if you got an old copy, or if your copy cut it off and didn't have the principal signature. But yes,
sign it and date it.
It just, all they have to do is sign it and date it. It has an evidence column. Now, the evidence column or the proof column is for you. So that if you did something that generated an artifact by doing that activity, that's just a reminder. I'd put a check there or where it is. Oh, when I did this, I generated an artifact by doing this clinical activity. So you can generate artifacts from doing your evidence artifacts, the 6 of them, or you can generate artifacts for your competency folio by doing your clinical hours. We call those open-ended competencies. And remember, you've got to have one of those for each of the 21 competencies. You've got to have an artifact that you generated by doing your clinical hours as well. I'd put a check in that box. Yes, I generated one. Where is it? Or I'd put a little note in that box. This is where I can find that artifact that I created by doing this activity during my clinical internship.
It's like putting money in your savings account and you're saving it until the end for something.
Can we use a paper log, or can we make a good, that's up to you. Whatever how you want to do it's fine with me. You can do that. You can make, I've seen people make them PDFs. I've seen people, make them Google Docs. I've had some that made them Excel spreadsheets. We just gave you an exemplar, one that was made as a Word document. I just made that one years ago. And students liked it because they could just print out multiple copies and write it down, and then they kind of put them all together in one at the end of the semester. Okay. What if our activity is 5 hours a week, log daily, weekly, or add all hours together and put in one row? I do it by the month. I put 20 hours a month. I did this. Don't make this a big thing. Your principal will know or not know if you did those things. As long as they know that you're doing 5 hours a week, there shouldn't be a problem on them signing off that you did 20 hours a month. Again, we're trying to simplify this for your principal as much as problem. My writing is terrible. Yeah, mine is too. I have that same problem. And so if you know your writing is terrible, I would do it in an electronic form. But, what we're trying to do here is when the state revisioned this program in 2010, they had a lot more stuff in there for principals to do. And they basically revolted. They said, we're not getting paid for this. Why are we doing all this? We don't mind working with the person, but the paperwork and all these electronic things, they had a task stream account. They had a task stream portfolio for you. They had to go in and do all this stuff. And the principal said, no, we're not being paid to do this. We don't mind signing off. We don't mind the actual clinical work. We involve the student in the actual work of the school, but we don't want to have to sit down once a week and spend 2 or 3 hours doing all this stuff. And so the state thankfully listened to them and dropped a lot of these requirements. And so now we're down to all they have to do is work with you to do the actual activities, and then they just have to sign off at the end. And so make it as simple and direct as you can for yourself. Don't make it a big thing. As long as they know what you did, they won't have a problem signing off on it. But what I'm really interested in as the chair of the department, what I'm really interested in is that you connect with that administrator. Really and truly. I was in a meeting today with the dean of the graduate school, and that's what we were talking about. We're very pleased with our clinical experiences, that our people are actually getting real clinical experiences. And that we feel like that is the heart of our program here at Gardner Webb, is that, yes, we do. We feel like the classes are good and the content knowledge is good and the books and all that. But what I'm most proud of is our folks really are interns, that they really get these clinical experiences. My principal sent me to EVOS training. There you go. See, our folks are getting real experiences. When you have me in class next semester, all you're going to get is real experiences. I'm going to have you interviewing people, going and doing. I'm going to have you every week. I'm going to go over the practical application of this law or that budget or those kinds of things, which helps increase your learning. But where you will really get the learning is when you go out and do it in your clinical experience. That makes it real. That's why we have you go out and actually form a PLC and do that work. We want you to be a real live intern that's learning from the people in your building. We're giving you some content, but the practical has got to come from those people. Kelly said you got to deal with an angry parent. Yeah, I know. What you'd like to say to most of them is your kid's an idiot and it's hereditary. But you can't say that to parents. You want to, but you really can't say that to parents. Now, I have, but you shouldn't do that. You're just starting out. Yeah, I know. Your principal sent you to a middle school conference with that kind. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we encourage you to go to different schools. One of the best things you could do this summer is maybe go to a different school grade level than your own and watch them schedule or do some work on the schedule. That'd be great. We encourage you to go to other schools and get other experiences. That would be great. Are we including resources about technology for every section in prompt 1, or do we need to do a section of?
We're gonna go to the APTEL in just a minute, Doctor.
I'm going to do the overview, and I'm going to let Dr. Stedman take that. We had a lockdown experience today, but it was a good experience for me to make sure we're safe. I spend a lot of time on that next semester. I do the safety, security, the audits, and all that stuff, the lockdown, we start out with the crisis plan. That's how we start out in 603, is crisis plan. I hate that we have to, but we have to. Somebody who was a high school principal during Columbine, and Dr. Stedman was too, we started out with crisis box for the last 20 years, unfortunately. That's just the way it goes. And so, yes, that's wonderful. But yes, we will cover all of the legal ramifications of lockdown, assessment of your facilities. Every 2 weeks that's required by law that people don't even know about, much less do. We'll cover all that stuff. Your crisis plan, your evacuations, your short-term, long-term, and travel evacuations. We'll cover all of that stuff next semester. That's how we start in 603. How to keep your building safe. We're going to go from instructional leadership to managerial leadership next semester when we shift into law and finance.
Okay.
That's my area, and so that's what I teach regularly.
Dr. Lamb, are you ready for us to move on to the?
We're ready to move to the. I make sure I've covered everything that I've got here on my agenda tonight. I have to look at my notes. Let me log out. Remember, always log out of TaskStream. If you don't, it'll lock you out, even if you're going to come back in a few minutes. All right, I am going to go to this. All right, so now I'm gonna kind of kick it off here, and I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Stedman and let him go through the individual pieces. I need for you to get an understanding right off the top. When you read this stuff, it speaks about effective leaders and decision makers. It speaks to various teacher empowerment and leadership best practices. That's two things. Look at the screen. Let me do it this way. Look at the screen. That's two things. You've got to come up with two measures because that's two things. There's empowerment as a school-wide leader, and that's things like being on the school improvement team, doing staff development for teachers, being on the school leadership team and doing resources, personnel, those kinds of things, different leadership roles around the building. That's big E empowerment. That's empowerment as a school leader. I call that big E empowerment. There's also little E empowerment. That's empowerment as a classroom leader. That's teacher empowerment versus leadership empowerment or leader empowerment. Teacher empowerment is being a good practitioner in your classroom. But the notion here is you can't be an effective school-wide leader if you aren't a great teacher in your classroom. We only want our best teachers to be our school leaders from the teacher role. We don't want the people that just roll the ball out to be the leaders in our school in terms of the faculty leaders. We don't want those people. If you're going to create an environment of teaching and learning, that, what we do here is we teach kids. What they do at Jones Sausage, they make sausage. What do we do in school? We teach kids. The only way to make sure that you establish that as the culture of your building is that we stress being a great teacher, and that only the great teachers get to be leaders in our building. We do not allow the people who just roll the ball out to be school-wide leaders as teachers. They've not earned that right. They've got to be great teachers first. So you're going to be looking for either one instrument that measures both, or two instruments that measure both classroom empowerment and school-wide empowerment. I gave you an example of the two in the template. I gave you Whitaker for school-wide. I gave you Marzano for classroom. Many of the walkthrough checklists that your districts have put together have both. Many of them have both. But the biggest mistake that you can make is just saying, oh, empowerment means as a school-wide leader. No, you got to be empowered in your classroom first. Let me answer some questions. The best principals weren't necessarily the best teachers. Yeah, that's old school. That's from my era, where the coaches always made principals that were the worst teachers or weren't even teachers at all. That won't work in modern times. Now, your best teachers need to be your emerging school leaders, and then your emerging school administrators. If you're going to be if you want to be a great school administrator, you better be a great teacher first. Otherwise, people won't respect you. You better be the best. Okay, let me see what else I got here.
I'm looking for...
Okay, we're good on the questions. All right. So Dr. Stedman is now going... I got one more question. All right. Dr. Stedman is now going to work his way through what he's going to be looking for as we go through kind of his feedback on what he sees and the hot spot areas for each of the tasks. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the first prompt up here.
Okay.
And go. And if I don't get back in a minute, I'll be back shortly.
Okay. Guys, and I've sent you some information out already, but what I want you to do is to realize that, that the APTEL is again, the title explains a lot: an analysis and action plan for teacher empowerment and leadership. Let's look at prompt 1. And I tried to explain this in the information that I sent out the weekend. Look at, it says the candidate will conduct a literature review with bibliography reflecting various teacher empowerment and leadership best practices, areas to be addressed. You're just simply doing like you did in the app. So you're doing what best practice research is out there, and you're going to address each of these 5 areas with a narrative. When you talk about building efficacy and empowerment among staff, what does the research have to say about building efficacy and empowered among staff? What is out there? Remember, you have to do a minimum of 3 references, and it must be written APA style. So if you're doing 3 references, that means that you're not going to have 3 or 4 sentences there. While I don't want a dissertation, why I don't want 4 or 5 pages on each one of them, it's got to be enough that it's covering the subject effectively. So you're going to address each of these 5 areas, what the research has to say about each of them. You're going to address each of them in a narrative with a minimum of 3 references. And again, at a minimum, you're going to have a minimum of 15 references in your bibliography when you get through with this, at a minimum, because you're addressing each one with a minimum of 3. You're addressing the research. Now, I don't think that's going to be the big problem for most of you. Prompt 2 is where I think that there were some digestion problems with that. The candidate will create a checklist based on the research to aid in assessing current best practices in the school clinical setting. And Dr. Lamb gave you some examples, and he talked about Marzano's 9 there. Those were only examples. I gave you some examples the weekend. The examples that I gave you, I pulled them actually from other students' work that has already gone through this process. And again, they were examples only of what you could do. You are going to have 2 instruments in prompt 2. One of them could be the walkthrough instrument that has already been established and is used by your school and or your district. You should be able to prove that that's research-based, or your system wouldn't be using it. Again, you've got to look at the validity and the reliability of the instruments that you're using. The second instrument that you're going to create, and more than likely you're going to create that, you may base it on something that the system does, but this is where you're actually looking at empowerment and you're looking at the empowerment of the school leader in that school, of teachers as leaders in that school. If Dr. Lamb, could you find James Sturgill and unmute him? James, not James Sturgill, but Travis Sturgill. If Travis is there, I want Travis to speak.
I unmuted myself.
Okay. Hey, James, you are James Travis.
Yes, that's it.
Travis sent me a message today, and I responded back, and he's right on point. Travis, speak to the class and let them know what you intend to do as a result of creating that checklist to look at teacher empowerment in your school.
Well, I was researching a little bit today, actually, and found the TELS survey. I can't remember right off the top of my head what it stands for, but it had a lot of validity and research behind it, and I planned on taking what the parts that fit with the 5 sections that we're talking about here, and then putting that into a survey that I would send out to the staff to get them to respond to.
And again, that's excellent, Travis. I really appreciate you sharing that. But you have access, Dr. Lamb, if you would speak to this SurveyMonkey, how they could get results back from that.
Oh yeah. You know how to set up a SurveyMonkey where you send it out. You can use SurveyMonkey for empowerment as a school-wide leader. Don't use it for empowerment as a classroom leader. You got to go in and look. But you can survey for, you get to, have you been involved in the school leadership team? Have you been involved in staff development? Have you been involved in curriculum? Have you been involved in resources? Have you been involved in selection of personnel? Those are Whitaker's 5, by the way. You can do that, but don't be surveying for, are you a good classroom teacher? Because guess what everybody's going to tell you? Oh yeah, I use best practices. That's an IQ test. So remember, you can use SurveyMonkey or Google Doc Survey or Moodle or Doodle or any of those survey technologies, but only for school-wide. Have you had the opportunity to do these things? Not, do you use homework? Do you use non-linguistic representation? Do you use cooperative learning? You better go look for those things.
Yeah, you're looking for that, but you're looking at the teacher outside that classroom also. You're looking at what can they do outside of just working with their students. What do they offer for the school? And yes, Pam, you can get SurveyMonkey for free up to 10 questions. So, that is a good tool to use. We're not telling you you have to use it. We're just telling you that is an option to use. And what Travis is doing, you may have a different way that you want to approach that. That's just one way to get to down Interstate 95 and get to the town that you want to get to. But again, all you're doing impromptu, you are developing, you're designing, you're building. You're not going to do anything with it yet. You're just getting it ready. You're building what you're going to use in task 2. All you're doing is building. You're building what you're going to use next at this point. But I think the question, people were looking at it and they were thinking, well, all I got to do is just use my walkthrough. That is not it. You're looking at what teachers do, because ultimately everything that we do is supposed to impact students, and the ultimate goal is improve student achievement. So what they do in that classroom is very important, but what they do as a leader in the school is also very important, and you're going to find out whether the efficacy part of it, do they even feel empowered to do that? And if they don't, you're going to do, and when we get to task 2, you're actually going to find out when you actually do what you designed to do in task 1, you're going to find out exactly what the results are. Because when you get to task 3, you're going to build an action plan, because those that don't feel empowered, your responsibility is going to put all of this stuff together, and you're going to build an action plan so that teachers feel empowered, that they're going to be more involved in the total school operation. And at the end, all of this is going to make them feel better. They're going to be better teachers. They're going to be better leaders. And in the end, students are supposed to be able to do better because they've got better people working in the classrooms.
All right, answers to questions. You don't have to create another PLC for your AppTel. You use the same one that you've already got.
And if you need to make a change with a person on that team, it's okay to make changes along the way. Because sometimes you've got people that decide, I want to opt out, or somebody may even leave the school, and you need to make replacements.
And Kelly made a good point here. She used the PLC group to come up with a survey to send out to the staff. I mean,
exactly.
You should keep working with them and involving them. You want to collaborate, and there's a lot that they can do to help you. But does it require a PLC? Yeah, you got to collaborate along the way, and you're going to see the need for your PLC when you get a little further in. And Dr. Stedman, as we go through the task and the prompts, you'll see where where your PLC is going to come in just a little bit later.
Dr. Lamb, Nichelle asked a question. If your district already has an established walkthrough instrument, don't recreate the wheel. I would use what I have, and we do want you, you're going to talk, and we're going to talk about this, probably not today because I think it'll be in overdrive, but next week we're going to talk about how you're going to take all of this information and how you're going to actually conduct some walkthroughs yourself. But remember, Dr. Lamb said a couple of weeks ago that you should already be talking to your administration using the information from the walkthroughs that they have already
done.
What they've done. Yeah, they've already got data. They have already done some things. And, you're going to ask them if they would share information, because you're going to use some of the information they already have to put your action plan together and to look at what is needed in your school.
Sure. And it doesn't have to be name specific. I mean, it just, aggregate data on the things that you're trying to measure. You know, you've got boxes on your walkthrough. How many of them do this? What percentage do this and what percentage do that? You know, in terms of, you're not asking to see a specific teacher's walkthrough data. You're just wanting the aggregate data. We're having you do a few walkthroughs just to understand how it works. That's that clinical piece of it. But you're going to use the aggregate data from your administration to make some decisions in terms of your of your plan, that your staff development plan.
And Dr. Lamb, we're going to get much more in detail about that next week. We want them to get their research done, and we want them to create their checklist, or to create the checklist, or pull together what they're going to be, what they're going to use next week. We want them to get all that together first, and then we're going to tell them next week actually what they got to do with all this stuff.
Yeah. Question: do we have to use both instruments with the same people? Yes. Yeah, you use both instruments. You do you get the walkthrough data on all your faculty, and you get the survey data from how much they're empowered from your faculty as well as the school leader. Yes. These are not two separate things. Everybody needs to be a great teacher, and everybody needs to become a leader in the building. If you have a building full of leaders, that's the culture that you're wanting in your school. We're trying to teach you how to build a culture of teaching and learning when you get your school. This is the basis of a school that the culture, the heart, what's prized and what's rewarded is great teaching and student outcomes. That's what's important. Again, what do they do at Jones Sausage? They make sausage. What do? We teach kids. You have to establish that as the culture of your building. Too many buildings that I've been in, the culture is this place is for adults. This is for our ease and our gratification and to, for us every day. It's for our comfort. No. A school building has got to be for kids to be there learning. If you want kids to learn more, you have to teach them more. Teaching has to be prized. It has to be the heart of what we do in a building. The heart of any school is great teaching, period. There's no exception to that rule. No great school has something else, athletics or drama or something else, plays, arts. No, the heart of any school is good teaching and learning.
Dr. Lamb,
how many more messages we have here?
Yeah. While you're looking at that, I want to remind you too, and remember in Blackboard, if you look to the left, and I'm looking at another computer, remember there's a place discussion board for task, and actually week 10 is when you are supposed to submit the AppTel Task 1 draft in Blackboard's discussion board. Now you can go over there to the left, and what is happening, many of you are going ahead when you get a little bit of the AppTel Task 1 done, you're submitting it into the AppTel assignment Dropbox, and I am forced to give a grade there. Don't put it there until I tell you. Go to the assignment board for task, go to week 10. You can submit information in there as many times as you need to for me to look at. So if you have an instrument that you need for me to look at and say, Dr. Stedman, is this instrument? That's where I look at it every day, several times a day. I can tell you you're on the right track or you're not on the right track. You can submit it to Dr. Lamb in, and we don't want you to submit every little thing to us. We want you to become independent. But if there's something that you need a question answered, or if you think, that's where we do that. Right, Dr. Lamb?
That's correct.
So, don't submit anything to that AppTel assignment Dropbox until I tell you to, because that's where, if it's not a completed task, if it's not ready, that's where I have to put a 0 in there until it gets there. We're not ready for that yet. Only put it in there for discussion at this point.
All right, a couple more questions here. Our school has just started using a new data system. There won't be aggregate data yet. Yes, there will be. They know that they can estimate for you who's doing who and what and where. They may not be able to pull it out of the system yet, but they can tell you basically what your percentages are going to be on your checklist. They don't have to be able just to actually pull it. You can have them estimate for you. In Blackboard, it says we need to include digital sources for task 1 in research. Is there a certain number of references that need to relate to technology? Dr. Stedman, that's up to you. I know you've already determined
Say that again, Dr. Lamb.
How many of it says in Blackboard that we need to include digital sources in task 1 in the research. How many of them have to be digital? Their resources, a website, or
just they, again.
At least one.
Yeah, at least one. You're developing to leaders now, so just make sure that it's included. We are the 21st century, and it only makes sense that you put those kinds of things in there. So I'm not going to tell you how long, how short, whatever. Just make sure it's included. If you don't see it, I'll send it back and tell you you haven't done it.
I had a question from one of my doctoral students today about a rubric for college teaching. And so I sent him a link to a digital resource. I mean, that's mostly what we have now. Is even though we don't print things out in paper anymore, most of the things that you're going to find as resources are digital. They're online websites. And so as long as you've got something online in a digital format, that's what we're talking about. It just can't be all old textbooks. It's got to be more modern stuff.
And Dr. Lamb, there's almost 60 students that we have this semester, and there's probably going to be almost 60 different ways that most of you approach this, and that's okay.
That's actually good. That's good. Again, you notice that as we move through these evidence artifacts, and it's not by accident, more of it becomes individualized to you and your school and your experience as a clinician. The things that you're learning, and it's tailored to kind of to your school. So the APTEL was much more. The APTEL is much more directed. I mean, the APSEL is much more directed. You notice in the APTEL, it's a little looser. It's more your decision making as we go as to what direction you want to go and things you want to do. Just like Travis talked about, he's going that direction. That doesn't mean you have to go that direction. There's some decision making starting to factor into these things now. When you get with me next semester in the OMA, it's even more. And then by the time I get you to the skip toward the end of next semester, it's pretty much, the directions there are very open, and everybody's skip looks completely different. But it should mirror the experience that you're having on your campus. We can't predict, or it wouldn't be. It's not good for everybody to learn the same thing, the same model everywhere, because it might not fit at your particular work location, and you won't be an administrator more than likely where you're teaching now. You need to learn how to adapt to the environment and the culture of your building. That's what we're training you to do.
Well, Dr. Lamb, one of the things I liked about Travis sending that to me today was he already had an answer to his problem before he asked me the question. And that's what good leaders do. Good leaders already search out solutions to problems, even when they're asking for help sometimes. You don't just come and just say, tell me what to do. Travis asked me what to do, but he already had a solution that he thought would work for him, and that's what I'm looking for, and that's what Dr. Lamb's looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hate to say this, but we're kind of glad when you have problems, because that's what you're going to deal with every day as a school administrator. That you have problems it does not reflect poorly on you. Figuring out a solution, that's when you actually learn how to be a school administrator. Everybody has a plan till they get punched in the nose by an angry parent. What are you going to do now? whether it's verbal or actually physically, or some crazy staff member. Everybody's got a plan, but how do you adapt once it doesn't go as smoothly as you think it ought to, or as you typed it out? That's going to be the trick.
Dr. Lamb, I just there's 3 or 4 students that have already submitted, and they're concerned because they have submitted to the AppTel assignment Dropbox, and I did put a grade in there because I had to. You can resubmit to that, and the grade, even if I put 100 in there, that meant that you were well on the right track, but it doesn't mean that you were completed with it. You can resubmit it again, and I can override that grade, put another grade in. So what I want you to do, if you've submitted to the AppTel Task 1, and I had no choice because of where it was placed, to put a grade in there, that doesn't mean that you cannot go back and you cannot resubmit with the changes that you need to make.
Yeah, now I've got all the drop boxes except for the turn it in drop box. I've got all the drop boxes fixed where you can make multiple submissions, and you can go into discussion board any number of times. But drop boxes, you can continue to make submissions, but don't wear Dr. Stedman out putting partial work in drop boxes. Don't put it in there until he tells you it's done so he can give you the final grade. Use discussion board for the back and forth comments in the development phase. The drop box, the evaluation drop box, is for the end when you get the final grade on that goes to your class grade.
Kelly, that is correct. And Sharon, yes, you can begin sending things to me, but again, go back to what Dr. Lamb said. Don't send me little pieces of stuff. Make sure, because I'm not going to, if I see that I'm getting little pieces of stuff and you haven't thought through it enough and given me enough that it's worth my time going in there. It takes a lot of time for me to go in for one person. So make it worth my time to go in there when I go in and look at anything for you.
And remember, you go to discussion board, and we've got these we've got these threads here in discussion board. This is where you work back and forth with Dr. Stedman. When you see right here, AppTel Task 1 draft. And then when it gets done, you come to your final task drop box. That means they're done and ready for a grade. And
but they're not going to put it there till I tell them to.
Be He'll tell you when it's ready to go there. But that's just for the grade. That goes straight to Grade Center. These are not linked to Grade Center. This is for you to be able to work collaboratively back and forth with Dr. Stedman. Same thing in my clinical box. You just use the one that says for clinical coach review. It's a discussion board. I check it every day. I hope Dr. Hamilton is checking his. I usually go in and check his pretty regularly as well to make sure that he's keeping up. But you should be getting feedback. Feedback comes in discussion board. When you use the drop box, that means it's done and you're moving on to the next task. All right, back to the AppTel.
Dr. Lamb, do we need to go into task 2 much at all yet?
Nope.
I didn't think so. I think you've got enough.
We just need to cover task 1 tonight. I don't want to confuse them with task 2. Now,
I don't either.
Do you want me to come online Thursday night with this group and pick up there, or you want to wait? I think we just need to wait till next Tuesday.
I think they've got enough to work on until next.
I think they've got enough this week. We'll probably do 2 sessions next week.
Do you need to say any more at all about prompt 2 working with their checklist? Is there anything else you need to say, Dr. Lamb?
Nope.
Okay. I know that we're going to see work throughout this week. We'll come on board next week. You should be pretty much through by next Tuesday when we come on board with task 1 of the AppTel, and you should be ready for us to tell you what to do with all of this next Tuesday. I know that it's just to be submitted for discussion board next week, but again, you can't wait to the last minute. Do not wait until the last minute on this, or you will get behind. I don't know where Dr. Lamb went, but he went somewhere. Okay. but I don't think you're ready for us to come back on board Thursday night. I think it's too much. I think you need the time to work on things. Many of you have already gone ahead and you've come together with your virtual collaboration groups, and you've already done the case studies 5 and 6. I like planning ahead on those things. Just remember that we are looking at virtual collaboration. A part of leadership is somebody taking the lead, and you're going to have to make time for your groups and make sure that everybody is equally involved in the activities that's going on. Dr. Lamb, I think we've given them a lot to think about tonight.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I think we're good for the evening. I will process, upload. It'll take a while tonight because this is a 90-minute one.
Yeah.
You will get this. I'll send it to Dr. Stedman. He'll post it and send it out.
I'll send it out before the night's over with, and you'll get it like you've always gotten it. And I'll look forward to hearing from. I know I'm going to hear from most of them before the week's over with.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Lamb.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
thank you. Y'all all have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.